Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight up, because I'm not here to sugarcoat it. Women don't just fall for the richest guy in the room. It's not the flashiest watch or the fanciest car that wins her heart. No, no, no. Women always choose the man who does this. He shows up. He listens. He protects her peace like it's sacred. He's not perfect, but he's real. He's consistent, not just charming. And if you think it's all about looks or status, baby, let me wake you up today. Because what women crave at the core is something far deeper, something powerful, something real. Consistency over charisma. Women trust actions, not just words. In today's world, where people are bombarded with charm, fast talk, and quick impressions, it's easy to mistake charisma for character. But when it comes to relationships, real, meaningful relationships, charisma fades if it isn't backed by consistency. Women are intuitive, they notice patterns, and more than anything, they pay attention to what a man does, not just what he says. A man can be magnetic in a room, smooth with his words and flawless with his timing. But if his actions don't follow through, it's all surface level. Women are drawn to a man who shows up, day after day, with reliability, with presence, and with effort. Not just when it's convenient, not just when the spotlight is on, but when no one's watching, when it's hard, when it's quiet, and when it really matters. Consistency builds trust, and trust is the currency of connection. When a woman sees that a man keeps his promises, even the small ones, she sees him as dependable, and that dependability is rare. Anyone can impress once, anyone can send flowers on Valentine's Day, but can he show up emotionally on an ordinary Wednesday when she's feeling off? Can he keep his word when he says he'll call, or support her when she's chasing a goal of her own? Women don't expect perfection. They're not looking for a man who never stumbles or never gets it wrong. But they do pay attention to whether he learns, grows, and shows up better next time. That's what consistency looks like. It's not being flawless, it's being intentional and steady. When a man is consistent, he becomes safe in a world full of uncertainties. There's a reason women eventually pull away from the guy who only dazzles in the beginning, because over time, charm without commitment feels hollow. The woman who knows her worth will always choose the man who proves himself with reliability. Because deep down, she wants to know, can I count on you? Will you still be here when the excitement wears off? Are you real when things aren't easy? A man's yes has to mean yes. His presence can't be part-time. His energy can't be all, in 1 week and then vanish the next. Consistency, even in the smallest things, carries weight. Showing up consistently doesn't mean grand gestures every day. It means being emotionally available. It means sending the good morning text because you said you would. It means listening even when you're tired. It means remembering what matters to her, not just because she reminded you, but because you care. Women notice the effort. They notice the discipline behind the effort, and that discipline, that's what separates men who are serious from men who are just passing through. Charisma might spark interest, but consistency builds a connection that lasts. You can't fake consistency. That's why it's powerful. It's rooted in who you are, not just how you perform. It shows in the way you talk to her, the way you make her feel safe, the way you honor her time, her thoughts, and her heart. Women gravitate toward what feels grounded. They trust what feels stable. And when a man offers that day in and day out, without needing applause, without making it a performance, he becomes unforgettable. Consistency isn't exciting in the way charisma is. It doesn't always come with fireworks, but it is what keeps the fire burning long after the sparks are gone. Because ultimately, women don't fall for the man who talks the best game. They fall for the one who plays it with integrity every single day. In a society that constantly bombards us with images of the ideal man, chiseled jawlines, six-pack abs, designer suits, it's easy to believe that physical perfection is what draws women in. But that's only a surface-level truth. What women truly crave, especially when they are grounded in self-awareness and emotional maturity, is emotional security. It's the feeling of being seen, heard, and safe. Physical appeal might catch the eye, but emotional safety captures the heart. A woman wants to know that she can be herself without being judged. She wants to feel like she can speak her truth and be met with understanding rather than defensiveness. That's the power of emotional security. It creates a space where vulnerability isn't punished, where openness is not just allowed but welcomed. When a man knows how to regulate his emotions, communicate calmly, and respond with empathy rather than ego, he becomes a safe space. And that kind of safety is rare and deeply attractive. It's not about suppressing feelings or pretending to be emotionless. It's about handling emotions with maturity. When a man can sit with discomfort instead of exploding, when he can listen without interrupting or trying to fix everything, when he can say, "I understand how that made you feel," instead of making it about himself, he's giving a woman the one thing her soul needs: security. Because when a woman feels emotionally secure, she can truly open up. She can let down the walls she's built from past disappointments. She can trust. A physically perfect man might be easy to show off in public, but if he creates tension in private, if she has to tiptoe around his moods or be afraid of how he'll react, the relationship becomes exhausting. That's when emotional instability chips away at her sense of peace. And for a woman who values her emotional well-being, no six-pack or sharp suit is worth that cost. Emotional security also means consistency in how a man treats her. It's in how he responds after a disagreement. Does he shut down or does he work through it? It's in how he supports her during her low moments. Does he withdraw or does he lean in and show care? A man who can be emotionally present during both calm and chaos is the man who earns deep respect. Because it's easy to be kind when everything's going well. What matters is how he acts when things are hard. Women are emotional beings, not in the sense of being irrational, but in the sense of being deeply connected to their inner world. They sense shifts in tone, energy, and body language. So if a man is emotionally unstable, unpredictable, or reactive, she'll feel it. She might not always say it out loud, but she will start to pull away. Emotional insecurity triggers anxiety. It leads to second guessing, walking on eggshells, and emotional burnout. No matter how good a man looks, if she can't feel safe being her full self around him, she won't stay. On the other hand, emotional security allows a woman to relax into the relationship. She doesn't feel like she's in a constant battle. She's not always trying to decipher mixed signals. She knows where she stands. She knows the relationship has roots, not just wings, and that's what allows love to grow. Emotional security is quiet, steady, and grounding. It may not look flashy, but it feels like peace, and peace is something every woman is ultimately seeking, especially in her most intimate connections. Respect is the foundation of any lasting relationship, and for women, it's often the very first thing they look for, even before love, even before attraction. Without respect, nothing else can thrive. And one of the clearest ways respect shows up in a relationship is through how a man treats a woman's boundaries. It's not about just hearing her say no. It's about truly understanding and valuing the things she holds sacred. That includes her time, her body, her emotions, her space, and her voice. When a woman sets a boundary, it's not a challenge to be overcome. It's not a test to see how far a man can push. It's a declaration of self-worth, a sign that she knows what she needs to feel safe, valued, and respected. And the man who hears that boundary and honors it without pouting, pressuring, or making her feel guilty earns her trust. That trust becomes the soil where emotional intimacy grows. Because when a woman feels like she can stand firm in her truth without being punished for it, she starts to open up. She feels seen, not just desired. A man's response to boundaries says everything about his character. Does he listen when she asks for space, or does he try to manipulate his way back in? Does he respect her schedule and her priorities, or does he expect her world to revolve around him? Does he handle rejection with maturity, or does he become passive, aggressive, and withdraw affection? These small moments tell her everything, because respect isn't about grand gestures, it's about the micro decisions made every day that show her she's safe. When a man respects a woman, he doesn't make her feel like she's too much for asking for what she needs. He doesn't shame her for having standards. He doesn't try to bend her into someone more convenient. Instead, he sees her strength and honors it. He understands that her boundaries aren't walls to keep him out, but doors that, when knocked on gently, lead to deeper connection. Women notice when a man pays attention to the little things, when he asks before assuming, when he checks in instead of pushing forward, when he pauses to listen before reacting. A woman who has been disrespected in the past will have her radar up. She'll be guarded, careful, protective of herself, and rightly so. So when she meets a man who not only respects her words but aligns his actions with that respect, it feels different. It feels healing. Because too often, women are told they are overreacting when they express discomfort. They're gaslit into thinking their needs are a burden. But the man who listens and adjusts, the man who doesn't need to be begged to be kind, the man who gives her room to breathe, that's the man who stands out. Respect also means accepting her autonomy. She is not an accessory, a prize, or a project. She is a whole person with dreams, boundaries, and a life that doesn't revolve around anyone else. A respectful man celebrates that independence. He doesn't compete with it. He doesn't try to control it. He supports it, cheers for it, and builds with her instead of trying to build her into something else. And when disagreements happen, because they always do, the man who respects her never resorts to insults, manipulation, or emotional games. He communicates not to win, but to understand. That kind of respect is rare. It's quiet but powerful. It shows up in the way he speaks to her in public and in private. It's there in how he talks about other women, even when she's not around. It's there in how he supports her decisions, even when they don't benefit him directly. And over time, it becomes the most magnetic quality he can offer. Because the woman who knows her worth will always choose the man who doesn't just admire her, he respects her. Confidence is undeniably attractive. It's the energy a man carries when he walks into a room, the way he speaks about his goals, the steadiness in his voice when he expresses his thoughts. But there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, and women can feel the difference almost instantly. Arrogance feels like a performance. It demands attention. It talks over others. It needs to be right. Confidence, on the other hand, is quiet power. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't seek to dominate. It simply is. A man who is confident with humility is grounded. He knows his worth, but he doesn't feel the need to prove it at the expense of others. He listens more than he speaks, and when he speaks, he adds value. He doesn't belittle others to elevate himself. He doesn't make everything about him. Instead, he creates space for others to shine, including the woman in his life. That kind of presence is rare, and it makes a woman feel like she's with someone who truly sees her, not someone who's too busy being seen. Humility in a man doesn't mean weakness or lack of ambition. In fact, it takes strength to be humble. It takes maturity to say, I don't know, or you're right, or I messed up. And that kind of emotional strength is what sets a man apart. A woman wants to know that she's with someone who can handle correction, someone who can learn, someone who doesn't need to be the smartest person in the room to feel valuable. When a man shows that he can take feedback without defensiveness, he builds a deep sense of safety in the relationship. Confidence with humility also shows up in how a man handles success. It's easy to get caught up in status, money, or recognition, but a humble man doesn't let those things define him. He stays connected to who he is, not just what he has. He treats the waiter with the same respect as the CEO. He doesn't name, drop, or brag about what he's accomplished just to impress. Instead, he lets his actions speak for him, and when a woman sees that kind of grounded confidence, she knows she's dealing with someone secure in himself. In relationships, humility allows for connection. It means a man is willing to grow. He's willing to see another perspective. He doesn't need to dominate the conversation or always have the last word. He understands that love isn't a competition. He values harmony more than control, and that balance of strength and softness is what makes him unforgettable. A woman can feel confident in herself when she's with a man who doesn't try to overshadow her. He celebrates her achievements, encourages her dreams, and never feels threatened by her shine. Arrogance, on the other hand, creates distance. It might be exciting at first, the charm, the boldness, the bravado, but over time, it becomes exhausting. It leaves no room for vulnerability. It creates power struggles instead of partnerships. It makes everything about ego, and eventually a woman realizes that she's not in a relationship, she's in someone else's spotlight. That realization pushes her away, no matter how attractive the surface may be. But when a man carries himself with quiet confidence, when he walks with purpose but remains teachable, when he holds his head high without looking down on others, he becomes magnetic. That kind of presence makes a woman feel safe, seen, and inspired. She doesn't have to shrink around him. She can rise with him, because his confidence doesn't demand space, it creates space. And in that space, connection thrives. There's something deeply compelling about a man who knows where he's going in life, not because he has all the answers or a perfect plan, but because he carries a sense of direction. He moves with intention. His choices aren't random, and his actions aren't just reactions to whatever life throws at him. He has a vision, even if it's still unfolding, and that vision fuels his discipline, his mindset, and his energy. Women are naturally drawn to that kind of focus because it signals strength, leadership, and emotional maturity. A man with purpose stands out because he doesn't drift. He doesn't wait for someone else to save him or hand him a path. He creates one. He's not just surviving, he's building. He wakes up each day with something to chase, something to contribute to, something that brings meaning to his life. Whether it's his career, a mission, a craft, or a set of values, that sense of purpose becomes a magnetic force. It gives his presence weight. It makes his time valuable. It shows that he's not just living, he's living for something. Women aren't looking for perfection, they're looking for alignment. When a man knows who he is and what he stands for, it gives her a sense of stability. He's not easily swayed by outside opinions. He doesn't jump from one thing to the next with no clarity. He has convictions, and he's willing to work for what he believes in. That consistency between his words and actions makes a woman feel like she can trust him. Trust that he won't fold under pressure. Trust that he's reliable. Trust that he's not lost, hoping she'll complete him because he's already whole on his own. Being a man with direction also impacts how he shows up in a relationship. He doesn't need to control or cling. He doesn't feel threatened by her independence because he's rooted in his own. He supports her journey while staying focused on his own. There's no jealousy in her ambition because he's not competing with her, he's already busy building something of value. That shared energy of growth and vision creates a powerful dynamic. It feels like a partnership, not a project. Purpose also brings passion. When a man is living in alignment with what matters to him, it ignites something in his soul. That fire shows up in how he communicates, how he handles obstacles, and how he treats the people around him. He doesn't sit still when things get hard. He adapts, learns, and keeps moving forward. That resilience is attractive because it reflects a deep inner strength. A woman watching a man pursue something with heart and hustle sees more than ambition, she sees character. On the other hand, a man without direction can feel stagnant. He may be kind or good looking, but if he lacks a deeper drive, it becomes noticeable over time. Indecision, procrastination, and a lack of follow-through can erode attraction. A woman wants to feel like she's walking beside someone who's going somewhere, someone who inspires her to rise too. Without purpose, relationships can start to feel like circles instead of journeys. But with purpose, the relationship feels like it's part of a bigger picture, part of a life that's moving forward with meaning. A man with purpose doesn't chase validation. He doesn't rely on external applause to feel worthy. His value comes from within, from what he's building, what he's learning, and who he's becoming. That quiet confidence, rooted in purpose, is what captivates women on a deeper level. It creates emotional safety, intellectual respect, and a powerful sense of admiration. It shows her that she's not just stepping into a relationship, but into a life that has depth, direction, and a future worth building.